Let's break the.
It's gonna be fun either way. That's all I know.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mud Club podcast. I am KJ Mudd.
And I'm Joseph Mudd.
And we have a special guest here, Josh Deehr. We're super excited to have him on today. He is a fellow subto student who has lots of experience being a TC and a lender. So I'm super excited to have him on and share all of his stories and experience in doing all of these things. So,
real quick, important announcement.
Oh, yeah.
Our internet is like super bad right now. Don't know what's happening. So hopefully, this comes out good on the other side. If not, we maybe just have to do a round two. But, without further ado, let's see what happens, right? Josh, thank you so much for being here, man. We really appreciate you coming out. It's 8:30 our time. I think 6:30 your time. So I really appreciate you being here for the evening. I'm sure you got tons of stuff going on. You're a busy guy. So without further ado, man, just go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of just jump right into it.
For sure. Thank you, guys. Thank you both for the opportunity to be here. It's awesome to be able to, help support your channel and then just, again, give back to the community, right? So with that being said, I can kind of start off a little bit, I guess, from the beginning so people kind of know what I've been up to. So I've been a creative TC for a little over 2 years. And with that, kind of led me into lending and Gator lending and PML. And by way of Pace's Avatar Challenge kind of redirected my life. I spent a couple years doing acquisitions, cold calling, driving for dollars, all that stuff for a mastermind student locally, as well as a couple other investors, and didn't have really any good luck with that. So with the Avatar Challenge, that really helped me understand that I'm more of an integrator and less a visionary. And so that kind of pointed me towards TC work. And that's where I found my home. I really enjoy being in that engineering side of things and knowing how to put contracts together and reading through all the legal verbiage and getting that real good understanding so that, you can help protect clients and investors so that they can move forward. And as we all know in creative stuff, it can get pretty dicey and pretty tricky real fast. So it's been a blast. But that led me, TC work anyway, led me to lending right away because nobody was really doing Gator or lending TC work. So I found, that took that opportunity rather and just kind of ran with it. I started off doing a little bit of lending personally. And then got so busy with TC work that it was easier to just broker lending deals and work with lending partners rather than try to manage my own stuff. So that's what I've pretty much been doing ever since.
Man, there's a lot to unpack there, and it's sad, but we only caught half of it, again, the internet issues. But luckily we've already had, you and KJ have already had some conversation, and I was able to kind of, pick up a lot of that as well. So let's kind of dial it back, right? Because I know you said basically you've joined in sub 2, and there was a point at which you kind of didn't know what direction to take until you had that Avatar Challenge. The Avatar Challenge come up, and it basically kind of told you that, you were more on that integrator side and less so on the visionary, which I definitely can relate to as well. I don't really consider myself either of them. I kind of fall right in the middle a little bit with a little bit more tendency for the integrator. So I can definitely relate to that too, minus the part about enjoying the legal stuff. I absolutely hate that part.
Right. Yeah. Most people don't.
Yeah. It's I think it takes a special kind of person to enjoy that kind of stuff. So shout out all the attorneys out there and the TCs. We absolutely love you guys. Couldn't do anything without y'all in this business. So
For sure.
Tell us a little bit more about how that kind of like morphed your mindset into that, right? Because it made that decision to go that route as the TC, right?
Mhm.
So how did that kind of mindset shift fit with you or alter your decision making once you kind of figured that out or discovered more of who you are, so to speak?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me was just being inside multiple deals all the time. Like, you talk about a crash course in repetition, like that's largely what a lot of our problems are or stem from in the beginning, is we just don't know what we don't know. And for me, being a TC forced me to look at multiple deals weekly. So I had to just adapt and learn fast. So it really gave me a crash course education in doing that kind of work. So, before you know it, not all the ins and outs, but pretty good foundation of the ins and outs and what documents you need and what you need to see and how you should talk to escrow or talk to a seller or a buyer and all that stuff. So it really gives you, I guess, the confidence, because that's hugely important, right? Joseph, when we're talking with anybody in our field, like just having confidence and knowing that you know what you know, and you're not going to be pushed around by escrow or by a seller or anything. You're like, no, this is what it's going to be. It makes all the difference in the world than being timid and unsure of yourself. And then it's just, they can always smell it, right? So I think that was one of the biggest things for me in the beginning. It was just like a big light bulb of, holy cow, like I'm really learning this stuff, and I can really apply it now. So here we go.
I feel like being a TC is like a superpower. Like for someone who's new to real estate, it's like the best way to really learn your way around things. I feel like TCs probably know more than the buyers and the sellers combined. Like TCs, I feel like, are essential for deals. And I think it's cool how it's become a thing now to have a TC on your deals. And honestly, I love being able to lean on one and trust in one to take care of the process. So I respect you guys for doing what you do.
Thank you. We appreciate it, and thanks to Pace and Molly and Caleb and everybody who really helped drive the TC force forward. If it wasn't for them, I certainly wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for everything that I've gotten from sub 2, from the Avatar Challenge up to TC work and working with great people to learn from, which was another big thing, like having, as anything that we're doing inside creative and real estate investment, if we have that mentorship aspect, that makes all the difference in the world. And being able to work in an office with someone like Caleb, Christopher, was amazing for me. I learned a ton, being able to lean on people who already been there. So, and for a lot of people that may not know or be able to go through programs, they're just out there trying to figure it out on their own. So I was fortunate enough that I still was cutting, breaking my own trail a little bit, because nobody was really doing the PML stuff at the time, but just being able to lean into everybody else for sub 2 and creative stuff made all the difference. And then you can just have a powwow, right? You're like, hey, I'm not so sure about this. What do you guys think? And then next thing you know, you got like 4 or 5 of you TCs around, kind of like a virtual roundtable, brainstorming on how to get past the problem. And then somebody comes up with something, you're like, yeah, that's it. We'll go with that. So
Yep.
It's great. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up, actually, because before we had TC, I was doing all that, and I didn't have anybody to kind of lean on other than the relationships that I've built along the way. But I wasn't like fully immersed in the TC world. Now we have James Pena. Shout out to James. He's our TC on our team. He's our in-house TC, and thank goodness for him. And he's actually told me multiple times that on situations where he didn't really know what to do 100%, and I didn't have the answer either, he was able to kind of join into the mix with the TCs that he knows, and he's created essentially a family around, right? And they were able to kind of figure out the answers. I see in the chat here, Lars, James also goes by Woody, so there you go, another team member. But yeah, they were able to kind of powwow and come together with a conclusion, a new answer. And actually, he's always constantly learning and getting more information from being plugged into those groups and those communities. So I absolutely think that's awesome to be able to mastermind like that.
Yeah.
Before we kind of transition over to the other thing that you do, right? The lending, that's,
Yeah.
a little bit more of a glorious job, right? The TC is integral work, but it's not super glorious, right? Usually it's like kind of the dirty jobs of the world, right?
Yeah. Well, and we're usually looked down on, by other elements, whether it's an attorney or an escrow officer or even a real estate agent. They're just like, you're just a lowly little TC. And you're like, do you know how to do creative deals and what contracts you need? You don't. So you might want to like show a little bit of respect. So yeah, it's funny. It's funny, but unjust. But yeah, the lending stuff, that's a whole different ballgame. But you're right. It is. I think it does get a little bit more shine and glory because it's, you're throwing around money and you're making deals happen by nature of, allowing people to have access to capital, right? So definitely probably is perceived to be more glorious than a TC job.
Well, I'm sure it definitely is, right, from the outside looking in. But I know being in the trenches, there's definitely some crazy stuff that happens behind the scenes, right? So give me one story, right? One story here of the craziest situation you've had, or just something, right? Give the people what you want, right? It doesn't necessarily. I guess it's a lesson no matter how you look at it. But I'm sure there was something that either caused the deal to blow up, or maybe it was just completely wild that it actually made the deal go well. I've had some scenarios like that. Give us one thing, and then we'll kind of switch gears and go towards the glorious.
Well, sure, I guess. There's a couple things that come to mind. One, very early on, it was a large gator lend that we were doing. And this was in the beginning of gator stuff. So, not a lot of us had come up against a lot of the landmines and dealing with mutual release and attorney states and things of that nature. And we still have this case in litigation pending and a judge hearing it. So, this has been over a year and 3 months of painful, process. The money's still tied up, the deal's still tied up. So until that gets rectified, nobody's getting anything. But the seller was an old school investor, and he wasn't stupid, but he played stupid a lot.
Hey, that's how you know they're really smart.
Yeah. And to the point where he has his mail going to places where he doesn't get it and doesn't reside. So when attorneys and people are trying to chase him down to have a conversation or to, serve him, he's a ghost. So, but he's not really a ghost. And we were able to get a hold of him, but he's made things extremely difficult. But one of the things that we learned through that process was just that, the biggest lesson we took away was it didn't matter what type of contracts we had, whether we had mutual release documents, whether we had all of our Gator documents in line. The thing that popped up was that if the escrow office or attorney's office felt that, and this happened multiple times, but this is just one specific instance, that if they feel like they're going to be litigated against, they will throw their hands up and run the other direction. They will not stand behind your paperwork. They will not, honor what they said that they were going to honor months prior. Even if you had stuff in writing and emails that said that everything was okay. So it takes the wind out of your sails a lot when you realize that the things that you thought you had firm to stand on really were just made of sand, and the water just came up to the beach and wiped it out. And you're trying to figure out how to recover, right? And luckily, this guy did a bunch of damage to himself by trying to be coy and, has not been responsible in responding to the court's prompts and letters and things. So, he's just continuing to dig a hole for him. So we're pretty certain that once the judge finally does hear the case, that it'll be awarded in our favor. But, it's it's just another one of those things. Do you want to be a year and a half? Maybe we may even be closer to 2 years by the time this thing is resolved, for, 60,000, 80,000, 100,000, or 5,000, it just depends. But, this deal was substantial. I think it was between 60 and 80,000. So, that's a lender who's losing money, because that could have been lent out, probably half a dozen or a dozen times over by now. So it just proves that you gotta be very careful and ask lots of questions, because if you don't know the question to ask, like I wouldn't, and I didn't know at the time, what happens if? What happens if? Are you going to stand behind this? Can I get a notarized document that's going to say that you stand behind it? Can I get the attorney to sign off on this? Because we want to make sure that we're secure, and we didn't have any of that other than just a light agreement that they were going to do the things that they said they were going to do, which they did. So.
Yeah.
And I've got there's a couple more stories I could go into if you want, but if you wanted to switch gears, we can do that too.
No, if it's pretty exciting, I think, let's give the people what they want, right?
This is good learning.
And what I'll say before we move on from that story, right? If you want to just sum all of that down, right? Just here's the learning lesson for the people watching, right?
Absolutely. To
take all of that into perspective, if you boil that down into one lesson, here's the lesson, guys. Get everything in writing. That's the lesson. Get everything in writing up front. Don't do handshakes. Don't do verbals.
Don't rely on your contracts either. Make sure that you're as locked tight with the attorney who's, because even in non-attorney states, right, and that just have an escrow office, they most often have an attorney on retainer because they're going to need them at some point. So reach out to the head of the office and say, hey, can we get on the horn with your attorney? Because this is, I've seen these go sideways before. So let's talk to, the person who's actually going to make those decisions and make sure that they're okay with this. And then of course I want it in writing, and I want it in triplicate and signed and everything else. And, put your blood stamp on there, do whatever. But
hey, I bet you won't let that happen again. That's for sure.
For sure.
Did you have a question, Ben?
I was going to say, I feel like that's why it's so important to also work with people who have experience doing these things, rather than just like, oh, I should lend money and not know how to do the right paperwork or do the right stuff or have the right people in place. Like, it's very, very important to team up with people, because lessons like Josh had, we wouldn't have known, or other people wouldn't have known, especially new people. Like, how can you avoid situations like that if you're not teaming up with experienced people like Josh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%.
We see it all the time, in our communities and Facebook and online, and almost on a daily basis, somebody says something and your heart just breaks, because you're like, man, if you weren't trying to save a nickel and you just reached out to somebody who is a professional to help you, and it doesn't have to be a TC, it could be an attorney, it could be whomever that has more education and knows how to go through those processes. But just don't be afraid to seek out that professional. Just like anybody who's doing subto, like you want to go find somebody to JV with, right, to do your first subto deal, because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you don't know. So make sure you're connecting with people that do, so that you can protect yourself as best as possible. So
I think the first 7 deals or so, we did those with other people where essentially we were tagalongs, right? Like we were doing the work, but we were the tagalongs, because we had, no experience. We had some knowledge, but not, quite the knowledge that we needed. So I, since election is coming up and all that stuff, right, I endorse that. Go join with other people, team up with others. That's endorsed here by the Muds.
Absolutely.
Well, cool, man. We got about 10, 15-ish minutes here. Let's kind of switch gears into the other one, and then we'll kind of bring it back around if we have some time as well. So the Gator business, I know you said that kind of started off doing your own money, using your own funds to kind of lend out and be a PML. That essentially came to, what's the word I'm looking for? You, in lack of a better word, you were kind of becoming the bottleneck in that particular business, right? Whereas instead, you could kind of delegate out the funds, like where those funds were coming from, and be able to capitalize and do more deals, right? Am I kind of picking that up, or piecing it back together?
Yeah, because if it doesn't sound like it, it should be obvious. The bulk of my work that I do is a TC. So if I'm full on files, how can I really manage trying to manage my own lend, right? So what that really ended up doing was me working with a couple of my regular lenders, and we just built our own systems, working together for over a year. So we were already streamlined, that we were efficient together. And then we both kind of had that same aha moment, maybe not right at the same time, but at different moments close together, so that we were like, hey, why don't we just do what we're good at and kind of stay in our own lane? So I would occasionally come across deals or other lenders and bring more funds to our team, or a deal to our team. But largely, most of my work would be as the TC for everybody, where my other partners would, do the underwriting of the lens and all of that stuff. So then we could collaborate that way, and then lend on deals and get stuff done. So we turn into like a little mini connector, or I like to say broker. I don't know if that's even correct, but that's kind of how I explain it. We're just broker in PML.
Yeah, the word I hear all the time from people in kind of a similar role or position for themselves, I hear connector all the time. It's like, right. I'm a PML connector. I connect other PMLs, and I kind of collect the funds for doing so. So it's definitely not an uncommon thing. I've met so many people that do this, and they all profit well. It's definitely really, really good resource to have in your back pocket, and not just one connector or broker, but have multiple, right? Because they're going to have different access to different kinds of funds and different people with different lending options and different risk tolerance, right? That's a big thing that a lot of people don't talk about is, what are they actually willing to lend on, and how aggressive are they actually willing to go with it?
For sure.
Any crazy stories in that regard as well?
I'm sure there's at least one or two out there. I just can't think of any super crazy stuff off the top of my head. It kind of just goes back to more like stories of really just keeping yourself up to date with things. Because I guess what I would want to say with that is, like, the world is always ever changing. The law is always ever changing. We've seen a lot of pullback with a lot of escrow offices not doing sub-2s anymore, or like it started where they won't do FHA because they're afraid to lose their FHA ability, right? And then it started getting a little bit heavier in this past 6 months, where a lot of them don't even want to do sub-2s anymore, because so many bad deals have been brought their way that it's kind of ruined their relationship. And I see that in the PML sector too. Like, there's a lot of things that have changed where, again, just the attorneys and offices not being willing to back up what they were willing to back up before, where you might have been able to get away with the gray area, like a pre-signed deed in lieu before, and now they're like, nope, no dice. It's got to be signed in the moment, or we won't honor it, kind of a thing. And the reason behind that is because somebody could claim duress, so there's always a good reason behind why they won't do it, but it's mostly due to the fact that bad deals have come and they've been bitten by it, and so now they're just tightening the ship. And so that would be what I want most people to walk away from probably today on all fronts, is just, as you're out there navigating these landscapes with these escrow offices and attorneys' offices, just know that you need to be extra diligent and not rely on yesterday's news and last week, Pace and the team did this, or last week, KJ and Joseph were able to do this, but this week I tried to walk into an office and I got a no, or I didn't know any better and I thought I could proceed that way, and now I'm stuck in a precarious position and I could lose. I can't foreclose. I lose all my money because I've got usury laws that I didn't realize that I was breaking, and stuff like that. And that would be a story that I could lightly share. Would be something like that, if you wanted me to go into that. But yeah, it's just be careful because things are ever evolving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say if you've got a story, let's hear it. I love getting the juicy details, man.
Right.
That's what I'm here for.
Right. So for the chaos, right? Bring out the chaos, and we'll see how crazy it gets.
We gotta live through you. We gotta learn.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of the ways we learn, right? Is hearing all the crazy stories that other people have been through, and hopefully we learn from it so we don't make those same mistakes, right? But so in this instance, it's been about a year. The lender funded a deal, and it's happening to him twice. So unfortunately, different states, even both attorney states, both states that I've done a ton of business in, and never had a problem before. I always preface with, these are our documents. Is it okay to use them? Have your attorney look it over. If they don't like it, we'll use yours, whatever. So we always get the green light, ahead of time. And that was fine then. And they approved and were, allowed for a deeds in lieu to be signed, and all that stuff. Well, come to find out, people aren't paying their bills because for lots of reasons, but typically it's because a deal that they made a year ago isn't financeable now, and they can't get a refinance, so they can't pay their lenders back, right? So the lender has to try to foreclose. Well, in doing that, come to find out he's breaking usury laws because of his percentage. And everybody who knows anything about usury laws knows that there's usually a set percentage for every state. Some go by a national average, some go by their own state average or number. But we thought that we were squared away when we did this, but apparently we weren't. But the big problem is that it's created an issue for him to be able to even foreclose on the property because his documents are breaking usury law. So he can't use the deed in lieu because they won't accept it because it was pre-signed a year ago. And then his usury issue was created an issue so that he can't foreclose because he'll just get laughed out of court. And potentially, if your usury is excessive, they can even send you to jail. So, those are all things that you want to be sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and maybe those rules change. Like I was dealing with a call the other day in a different state in Michigan, and between the year that it took place and where we are now, the percentage has changed. So potentially you were okay a year ago or 2 years ago, but now you're in breach of usury because the percentages have changed. So you just got to be very careful, and tread lightly. You never know what's going to change.
Man, on something like that, where it's that specific situation that you just said, right, where you were good, you had the green light, let's say 2 years ago, and now fast forward to today, and now you no longer have that green light. Does it not backdate it because it was set in stone at a predated time, or
I would think so. I would think that we'd have to go back to the rule of law and everything at the time that the contracts were signed. But and this is obviously this gets into above my pay grade because I'm not an attorney. Yeah. So this is where you're going to need to have counsel that you can lean on for stuff like this, and be prepared that it's just like you have to be prepared that you're going to potentially foreclose on a property and take it back if you're lending on it. Be prepared in your mind that you're going to have to call an attorney too. So, and unless you've been down that dirt road, you aren't usually thinking that way. You're thinking, oh, this is this isn't bad. I can do this, you know. But there's a reason why not everybody does it. There's a reason why the banks and institutions do it the way they do it. They have a lot more freedoms in a lot of ways than we do as private money lenders. So
that's a little scary.
That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, yeah.
Another little nugget I can throw out there is usually, and this, you know, the usuallys get you in trouble, unfortunately, because you use it as a blanket statement. But check with your state and your local municipal laws and counties and all that stuff. But usually one of the ways that you can avoid usury situations is if you're lending from a business to a business. So if you made the mistake of lending, say I lent Joseph $100,000 on his flip, and it's not in his LLC name, it's in Joseph's name. Now it's a consumer issue, and that's usury. Now, if I'm lending my LLC to Joseph's LLC, that's a different story. That's business to business, and that can, in most places, avoid a usury situation.
Man, there
just
you go.
That one little switch.
Nugget of the day right there.
For real.
I love that. That's cool. See, look, you know, that's the other reason I come on these things. You know, I get to learn something every now and then. So that's awesome. That's a good tidbit for sure.
You guys need to connect with Josh. He has lots of experience and lots of knowledge in all of this. He could be a really great resource for you as a TC and or a lender. So you guys need to reach out to him.
Yeah. Josh, how do the people reach out to you, man? Those that are here now and those that are watching later, how can
the easiest way to get a hold of me is you can hit me up on Facebook. Messenger and email is where I live the most as a TC, because I'm always talking to people, right, and emailing stuff. So you can email me at josh@omnitrans.io.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, OMNITRANS.io. And I have a website there too. So you could go to www.omnitrans.io and get a whole heck of a lot of information there. I've got pages for just about everything, from just kind of breaking down what TCs do, how we do it, the same as partners in lending. There's pages for connecting if you have funds and you're like, I have funds, but I'm new at it, so I'd like some help kind of going through that process the first few times. You know, we do bring new partners in periodically, so there's that benefit too. But yeah, any of those needs, you know, feel free to reach out to me there, or like I said, on Facebook too. I'm on Instagram. It is connected to my Facebook page, but usually I'm always in Messenger. That's the easiest way to reach me.
Man, I love it. KJ, do you have any final thoughts, questions you want to make sure that we ask before we adjourn? I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time, Josh.
Oh yeah, no, we're good. You got me as long as you need me. I had dinner already.
That was what was important for me too. I made sure that I ate just before this. At least first dinner. I'm gonna have second dinner after.
Right, have second dinners and snacksies later.
I know you said that you're looking to start buying. I think you should let everyone know what you're looking to buy so we can help bring deals to you. Yeah,
so I can give you the metros that we're looking at right now are Sacramento and South Placer in California. So South Placer being like Roseville, Rockland, Loomis, Penryn, Granite Bay kind of area. And then the greater Sacramento area. I'm in Oregon, so our Oregon markets are the Gorge, so Hood River, and the Dalles, which is our little communities out on the river, and then West Portland, Beaverton, Hillsboro, and even Salem. Beyond that, the last metro that we're looking into, which is where I'm headed next week, is Oahu in Hawaii. So primarily focused on the southeast corner, so Kailua, Lanikai, and then down to Honolulu and all that stuff. So that kind of corner of Oahu is where we're going to be looking.
What about Hawaii made you, or what called you to Hawaii? Because I think a total of 3 investors or people that really just love the Hawaii market.
Yeah, it's a hard market, right? Because everything's $1 million or more, or $1.5 million or more. The thing that helped me there is one of my best friends is a custom home builder. from Oregon. He built homes here. He built homes in Japan, and he lives over in Kailua now, and he's been there for 4 years. And we talk and we watch the markets for 4 years together, and we're like, man, we really got to do something here. So he's my guy. He's my boots on the ground. He works for a construction outfit there, so he has those resources, and he knows the permitting process and a lot of the headaches that new people going over there wouldn't necessarily know. So that's going to give us an advantage to hopefully do some stuff. So we're looking at a few condos next week, and there's a couple properties that have popped up that we're going to check out, hoping to connect with some people. So if any of the watchers and listeners out there, if you guys are over on Oahu, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to, grab a poke bowl or a coffee or something and say hi and just introduce myself and network with anybody who's on the island.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, I can actually send you a contact. I don't know if I have his number, but I definitely know somebody out there who's doing ground up developments. Nice. I don't know what island, but
they're all the same to me.
Yeah, it's all Hawaii to me. So
Hawaii is better than the mainland, right?
Yeah. Man, so it sounds like, based on what you just said right there, right? It sounds like it's not what you know, it's who you know, because that's why you're looking in Hawaii. You've got connections there.
That's the big thing. I mean, any market, right? Just to get into the topic of learning how to be an investor, and you guys, I'm sure you teach these things, but you really need to figure out your buy box, and then you got to study your market for a while so that you can recognize a good deal, so then you can go make offers on great deals, right? So that's what we've been doing for 4 years in Hawaii, at least. So now we think we're ready for to go pull some triggers on some stuff. So there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple condos that we've got our eyes on. He's already walked one of them. So, and then there's another house that looks pretty amazing. I don't know if anybody's watched Kamohai and Tristan's show yet, but that's pretty dope and inspiring. That their first episode was like, oh my God, that's just like the house we're gonna go see. That's total dump, but amazing view. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought that up, because I'm over here in Conroe, Texas, right, which is basically far north Houston, right, nowhere near Hawaii. And I'm talking to basically a neighbor who happens to be selling his house, right? Okay. And as I do with all the neighbors that put their house up for sale, I go and talk with him, and he happened to be walking by as I'm outside with my daughter, and start just shooting it with them, and he asked what I did, right? And that was my segue. Boom, I'm in, right? Now we're talking. So I started kind of going into it. Eventually the conversation kind of lets about all the TV shows about it and how it made it like seem more than what it actually is, or it's easier than what you're doing. And I was like, it's funny that you say that, and I started telling him about Pace, and now he's got his TV show, and like, hey, you should go check it out. This is my mentor, who kind of taught us everything that I just told you about. And, right, because I'm trying to buy his house up too. Right. And so I'm kind of like pushing that out there. And then I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah. And he mentioned this couple on HGTV. And I was like, actually, I have some people that I know, some friends that are also in that same community. And I mentioned the name. And he was like, oh, wow, I just saw that episode last night. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. What a small world, man. Like, it was cool to come and see that.
That's so awesome.
It is kind of neat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of neat to have like that closeness and connection to stuff like that going on. So I'm sure,
it means we're in the right circles.
Yeah, and us as a subto community, we're all super pumped for Kamohai and Tristan in the show, and watching them, grow into that inside the subto community. Kind of behind the scenes has been awesome, and so continue to wish them the best of luck on that. So that's amazing. But Pace obviously already has his show, so
Yeah, that's already taken off. He's already a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
Save some for the rest of us. No, just kidding.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's been really great chatting with you. I was not joking about that second dinner. I really am about to go eat again. So
Yeah.
I don't have any further questions. I definitely do think there could be a round 2 of this. I think you have a lot of knowledge and insight just from the small conversations that we've had so far, and the one I listened in on between you and KJ. So much value. I know you're barely scraping the surface. I know it, but
it's hard to give too much, in a half an hour. So we try to give you a little bit, but if you guys want to do some deeper dive or open things up for some questions from the audience, and we can try to compile some questions and go over really what some of the stuff the audience might want to hear from. I'm happy to come back and do a little bit more in depth with you guys for sure. Anytime.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe we do like a little mini series.
Yeah. That would be fun.
If it's something that y'all want to see or hear, let us know. Like, reach out, put it in the chat, whatever.
Please like and subscribe.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Hit the bell. Get it all.
and put in the comments any questions you have or things you want to ask Josh, and then we can put something together. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be a little bonus. That'd be cool.
Cool. Well, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else you want to end with, Josh?
Yeah. Final thoughts, Josh. What do you got?
Oh man, I think I already gave you my final thought with just the last little nuggets that I gave you, but I'll just reiterate. Make sure that you're reaching out to good professionals to help you in your journey, whether you're partnering with somebody and JVing as a beginner, reaching out to a TC or an attorney to make sure that you've got good representation on documents and the process, because ultimately there's things that are always changing and you don't want to be caught, unaware. So be safe. Man,
well said. 100%. Here's the endorsement. You've heard it here first. The Muds have fully endorsed this message.
Outstanding.
We appreciate you coming on our podcast and taking time out of your day to come and share your experience.
Thanks for having me and giving me a chance to give to your community too. So it was awesome. So thank you for letting me be here.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely a pleasure, man.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Have a good night,
everybody.